Right, let's return to the weather now for a closer look at how it's affecting your area. Let's start in Suffolk and Carol Bundock.
Susie, it's much calmer and clearer here tonight, although across the county 100 schools have closed today, and many of those didn't make the decision until lunchtime. Earlier today, I went to the village of Elmswell, where residents of an eco-friendly development have been without heat or hot water since Sunday evening. Now, Orwell Housing Association say they are trying to fix the problem, but Natalie Duro only moved in 8 weeks ago, and she is not happy.
The heating has been off 7 times in the last 8 weeks. We do need to think about being eco-friendly, being a teacher as well. That's one of the school's priorities at the moment. And promise cheap bills, you know, single parent. We're promised all these things, but in fact it's more expensive at the moment. Putting electric in and all this is just more expensive.
Now, elsewhere, as we've heard, the work stopped at the port of Felixstowe at 7:30 this morning and Operation Stack remains in effect. Tonight, National Express East Anglia are operating a reduced service on the trains. That's through Suffolk. And at the moment, as far as we know, all the major roads are clear. As for tomorrow, well, so far, 3 Suffolk schools say they'll be closed. They're Stradbroke Business and Enterprise College, Bealings Primary and Orford Primary. And, of course, for all the information you need, BBC Radio Suffolk will be with you from 5.
In Essex, Richard Daniels sent us this report from Chelmsford a few minutes ago.
For motorists who dared to venture out today in Essex, the roads were treacherous, especially the minor ones. In places, visibility was incredibly poor. We filmed these scenes near Harwich. Many roads became impassable and had to be closed. Throughout the day, Essex Police dealt with over 85 weather-related incidents. And then, following a severe weather warning, they advised drivers not to make journeys at all unless they were absolutely necessary. Well, meanwhile, Stansted Airport had to close briefly to clear snow from the runway. Around 10 flights had to be diverted to other airports, and there were delays on and off throughout the day. Over 200 schools either had to close or send their pupils home early, and with more snow forecast, at least 65 schools have decided that they will also have to be closed tomorrow. At the East of England Ambulance Trust's control room in Chelmsford, the number of emergency calls rose sharply.
We're seeing an increase between 15 and 20% of 999 calls, which is significant, particularly added into that the additional challenges of the weather, and makes it a challenge for us to get to those patients.
Well, the Ambulance Trust has actually rented 4x4 vehicles to make sure it can reach all emergencies, and also to ensure that its staff can get into work at the control room. Now, tonight in Essex, the gritters are out once more. The concern is that the snow and slush will turn to ice as temperatures drop overnight. Now, if you want to know what tomorrow holds, BBC Essex is on air with a special programme tonight from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. That will include its snow line, giving details of which schools are closed tomorrow, and other events which have been cancelled.
Let's get the picture from Norfolk now, and Amelia Reynolds, who's in Norwich.
Well, here in Norfolk, we've escaped any significant snowfall today, but saying that, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in King's Lynn is reporting this evening that almost half of all admissions are due to weather-related injuries, and hundreds of homes are without power tonight in the south of the county. Now, the roads, particularly the minor ones, remain icy, but the County Council says it is prepared. 1,600 tonnes of grit were delivered to the county yesterday under a somewhat controversial PFI scheme, perhaps not quite so controversial at the moment. Again, the gritters are out tonight. As for the schools, well, 31 closed today. Snow was a concern, but also the head teachers were also reporting problems with boilers. The council says it's expecting a number of those schools to remain closed tomorrow morning. Now, for the latest situation tomorrow, the best advice is to tune in to BBC Radio Norfolk for the advice on schools, weather and travel. You can listen to Chris Gorham on The Breakfast Show tomorrow morning from 6:30 when he'll talk you through the details.
Amelia, thank you very much.
A man's been killed in a house fire in Essex. The fire service was called to a semi-detached house in Pines Road, Chelmsford, in the early hours, where a man in his 60s was found. An investigation's been started into the cause of the fire. It's believed the man lived alone.
It's very rare to see a fire which has caused this much damage to a property. The floor joists on the upper floors have been completely burnt away in some areas, and my initial observations are that the fire has been burning for some considerable time before we were called.
Police investigating the death of a young man in Suffolk are trying to trace two girls who may have been the last people to see him alive. Daniel Hannant disappeared after a night out in Southwold last February. His body was found 3 days later. Police don't think his death was suspicious. Norwich MP Charles Clarke says he supports calls for a secret ballot on Gordon Brown's leadership. Clarke says he thinks it's the right thing to do and the only way to resolve matters before the election. Jeff Hoon and Patricia Hewitt have texted all Labour MPs to ask for their support for a vote. The West Suffolk Hospital in Bury St Edmunds has been closed to visitors. It's because of an outbreak of the norovirus, which causes sickness and diarrhoea. Both patients and staff are affected.
The Independent Police Complaints Commission is to oversee an investigation into how Suffolk Police dealt with an allegation of a serious sexual assault made by a teenage girl. It follows an allegation that the force didn't follow up a complaint made to them back in 2005 and that it wasn't recorded as a crime until 3 years later. A controversial plan to reintroduce sea eagles along the Suffolk coast has been put back a year. Some landowners and farmers were against the proposals amid fears the eagles could eat outdoor poultry and pigs. English Nature now says it needs a longer consultation period. It means any chicks won't be reintroduced until August of next year at the earliest.
Well, as we've seen, the cold snap has been making life difficult for most of us, but for some of us it's a big cause for concern.
Many elderly people have simply been unable to leave home because of the icy pavements, and keeping warm is a worry for others. Today, Lookie's cameras were out and about with the services bringing a lifeline to the vulnerable. Emma Ball reports.
Meet the region's snow heroes, roadside recovery man Trevor, district nurse Deborah and Jenny delivering the Meals on Wheels.
Thank you very much. I shall see you later.
OK. Jenny Lewis sets off on her round, one of 7 drivers working out of Corby, delivering 100 meals every day.
Well, it's not difficult any other time, but when it's snowing like this, we can't get to the clients' addresses, so we've got to park up and walk lots of places, you know, to give them their meals, because they need a meal.
Well, on the bottom on these, I think you've got a pulley, I think the bottom pulley.
Roadside recovery man Trevor is based in Lowestoft, always expecting a busy time in the snow.
It's mainly battery-related breakdowns. We tend to find normally the batteries are failing or that they can't recover because the temperatures are so cold overnight. A lot of that, obviously, starter motors, alternators, a lot of the electrical stuff charging. That seems to be the main problems that we're seeing at the moment.
Well, we're going to see a gentleman that's quite poorly at the moment. Obviously, he is one of the priorities to get to today.
District nurse Deborah has a patch stretching 20 miles around Raunds in Northamptonshire, one of 8 nurses visiting up to 10 people a day.
It's not a normal situation today, is it? Yeah.
Some are very poorly, some are terminally ill, some are just pre-operative, some are post-operative, but the main thing is that we need these patients to be in where they want to be, and that's obviously at home. And if we can avoid admissions and if we can keep patients at home and stop going into hospital, then we're very motivated to provide that service.
Meanwhile, back in Lowestoft, Trevor is ready to help others on their way.
You know, if we get a mad rush, that's what normally happens. We'll get a peak, you know, in the morning, dinner time, and then coming up to tea time as well, sort of thing, the times when people are moving about to and from work.
Hello, you ready? There you go. Beef bourguignon today. We're in a little village in Northamptonshire, and it's one of my clients that I deliver meals to, and she was 100 in October, and she loves the dinners.
Oh, it's better really, yeah. My son wouldn't cook like that. I never go up the kitchen now, not now, because of the steps.
Jenny and the other Meals on Wheels team say they've only failed to get through once in 18 years, when roads were completely blocked, but say they'll try and turn out whatever the weather. Emma Ball, BBC Look East.
Well, the prolonged cold